What's up, giant employee here? I only got 12 minutes before my camera is out of space. I gotta make this quick. Who wouldn't want to hear me talk about movies for longer than 12 minutes? Um, so we're gonna talk about some more movies. Watching a lot for the Oscars. Also just watching some for the hell of it that are released in 2022, but it didn't get nominated. I'll talk about at least one of those. And this, I kind of go into these blindly. Like let's go. I do think about the movies a lot before I talk about them, though, unless if it's like right out of the theater. Um, and one of the movies that I've been thinking about nonstop since I've seen it is Aftersun. I fucking love this movie. I love this movie, and it's a hard one to recommend because it moves very slowly and it doesn't pick up the pace at all. It's a movie where I was watching it. I heard really good things about it. A YouTuber that I really enjoy, Karsten Runquist, he like named it as his favorite movie of 2022. So I was like, all right, it's only up for Best Actor, but cool, let's check it out. I've seen all the Best Actor movies now except for Livin'. I'm not gonna watch Livin'. I have no interest. So I checked this one out, and the entire time I'm like, there's this things I like. I like the way it was shot. It's not like like a masterpiece cinematography wise, but it's good. I liked the way it was shot. There's some really nice shots in there, and it's also mixed in with VHS footage, which I enjoyed. I like the performances, the two main performances from Paul Mescal, who's he's the one who's nominated, and the child I don't know her name, and I only know Paul Mescal because he's nominated. But for as far as child actors go, I feel like it was perfect. Like she gave a completely believable performance, and I'm not normally one to poke fun of child actors, but I will acknowledge when one is good, because I think most child actors aren't very good. But it's at the same time, I don't blame the kid. I blame the director for hiring them. If you're a director and you're hiring a kid to be cute just because they're cute, then it's like, all right, you're kind of setting them up for failure, right? No, this was genuinely a great child performance. They worked off of each other very well. It was a very believable, father-daughter relationship. And I enjoyed that a lot. But I was waiting for the movie to like really strike a chord with me. Like I wanted to love it. I was waiting, and then not much really happens on screen. It's more so what you're supposed to get out of what you're watching rather than like some big event take place in the movie. But I did hit a point where everything just kind of clicked. There's a scene near the very end. I believe they're playing a Queen song during this scene. So that's, if anyone who watches the movie wants to know where it kind of clicked with me. And I felt like I finally understood the movie, and it made everything up to that point significantly better. Whereas before I was enjoying it well enough, but I didn't really understand what the point of it was. And then it just kind of like finally, like, I've been thinking about this entire time. I'm like, I think I know what this movie's saying. And I'm 100% someone who's for looking up articles and looking up videos if you don't understand a movie fully. Maybe like think about it for a bit. Maybe don't do that right away. Let it sit on you for a bit, because it can be rewarding to kind of come to your own conclusion on a movie that's not like spelling things out for you. But I definitely think that it helps to hear what other people are saying, because again, I watched Karsten Runquist's videos. Like I watched some of his videos talking about them again. But I also, just reading the Wikipedia article, there's like little details that they mentioned in the plot synopsis. I didn't go like do heavy research on the meaning. Just wanted like I wanted to read a little bit about it and hear a little bit about it, just to kind of help me form my opinions and try to understand it as well as I could. And there were little things I wasn't thinking about. There was something that people were talking about that they experienced, and I was like, I did fucking experience that too. I just didn't even really I was feeling these same things, but I couldn't quite describe them, and you've described what I'm feeling. Like the biggest one I'll say, and I'll try to say this without spoiling anything too much, but I don't think this is a spoiler. I think this is more of like a theme of the movie. In Karsten's video, he's talking about how it kind of brings you back to being a kid who is maybe there's not something blatantly wrong going on with your parents, but there's just something slightly off. There's something like an interaction that's slightly off. There's something about them that it doesn't seem quite right. Because really at the end of the day, what you learn as you get older, and there's a lot of media that talks about this, is that your parents aren't perfect. It's a hard thing to come to terms with as a kid. Is that your parents are also flawed people. But it brings that like anxiety that you feel when you're a kid, when your parents like mess up. Maybe there's like a night where they're down in the dumps or angry about something and you're not sure why. And because you're a kid and because you're not used to seeing them that way, you like think about it a lot worse than you normally would. Um, a lot of it's done for that, but it's also done for like just memories, you know, just looking back at your childhood, looking at back at these moments that were like a little weird to you as a kid, and like kind of being able to understand a little better what was going on there. Um, and that's not what the movie's about. That's just a feeling I got from watching the movie. But yeah, that was something else. Um, neighbors walking the dogs, looking at me doing this. Always very awkward. Always, it never stops being awkward. I like recording these in my car. I don't know why. But I loved this movie. Uh, I'd say give it a shot. It's an hour and 40-minute long commitment, and it's an hour and 40-minute commitment where you might make it to the end and get nothing out of it. And if you don't see what I see in it, that's perfectly fine. I read a lot of comments on the YouTube video, like just the YouTube page it was uploaded to, because you have to pay for it, but there's still comments under movies that you can rent. Just because I wanted to hear what other people were saying about it. And there were people who loved it and there were people who didn't get it. And I think this one's totally acceptable to not understand, or even if you do understand it, say like, okay, whatever. That doesn't mean a lot to me. Because I could absolutely see it going that way. It's a movie where not a lot's happening. It's completely an emotional experience for me. But I like it. I heard some people also describe it as a female perspective movie. I guess so. I can see where they're coming from with that. I certainly got something from it despite that, but I mean, you can get movies though. You can get stuff out of like female perspective movies, even if you're not female. Speaking of which, Woman Talking, that's another one I watched. A miserable movie, very miserable movie. That doesn't mean bad movie. It just means it is unpleasant to sit through, but it's kind of intentionally unpleasant to sit through. You're just basically listening to these conversations between a bunch of different women in an Amish community that are making the decision on whether they want to leave the colony or if they want to stay. But if they stay, they have to forgive a bunch of men who, they're rapist or abusive, who are coming back to the colony. That's like the circumstances. And the whole movie is them just debating it. And to some people, hearing that is insane. Like, of course you're getting the fuck out of there. But the movie does a really good job of putting you into their perspective, hearing them out, hearing like points of view that you're probably not going to agree with, but at the very least it makes sense how someone who's been in that like life, like who has lived that life up to they have spent their time there their entire life. You can kind of see how maybe they would come to that conclusion on why that makes sense. And in some cases it's like completely logical and not based on emotion or based on what's best for you mentally. It's based on what's best for you physically, or it's trying to like talk about like why this is happening. Like maybe there's a way to like fix the problem, but ultimately, yeah, it's a miserable movie. As I'm describing it, probably comes off as pretty miserable, and that's because it is. But I do think there's value to it. I do think there is value to it. I think it was shot really well, and I loved the score. But you could honestly listen to this as a podcast. Like you could like completely turn the movie off and just listen to them talk. Not suggesting you do that. It's a movie. You should experience it as a movie. But if you were like absolutely busy and just wanted to hear what it was all about, like I actually think you could listen to the movie and still get something out of it. Yeah, very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. But very interesting. Very well performed. It does feel like you're watching a lecture if if movies are an escape for you, if you want to be entertained by them and not experience something like that. I understand that. I get tired of watching movies like this too, but every once in a while I think it's good to throw something like this in, something that's going to take you past your comfort zone, something that's, it's going to make you feel bad watching it, but at the same time, you're hearing something out, and I think that's good. I think that this movie has some important points to make. And yeah, that's it for Woman Talking. I recommend the movie for sure, but just be aware what you're getting yourself into. Let's talk about something a lot more accessible than these two, which is going to be the menu. Also, I've realized that I'm not giving movies rankings anymore. So Aftersun's a 9 out of 10. Woman Talking's a 7 out of 10. We'll say that for now. Not putting a lot of thought into that number, I'll admit, but I've been thinking about these movies a lot for the last few days. A movie that I've been thinking about a lot less would be actually, wait, no, we're going to talk about The Menu next, which I have been thinking about a lot. Fun movie, really fun movie. Probably not going to be talking about this one as much as the other two, because at the end of the day, I think it's just a entertaining movie with unique characters, really great sense of humor, good shots. It gets really intense. I don't think that it's that deep of a movie, which is fine. I like, it's my number 3 of the year. I appreciate the hell out of it for just being a dumb fun movie. But I call it dumb fun. There's definitely some depth to the characters. There's definitely some, there is some satire in this movie. It's making fun of like really pretentious, like, basically people who are in like the food industry, but like the really pretentious people. And it's taken that to the next level, and it's having so much fun with it. All of the performances are great, especially the lead chef in this movie. He was great. I forget the actor's name. I know him best from The Good Place, which he plays a very funny character on that show too. But yeah, lots of really great moments in this movie. A ton of good comedy. This is a movie for everyone. Check it out. Absolutely. HBO Max. This one's very accessible. I think most people will watch this and have a good time with it. It's a little fucked up, but I don't like, it's the right kind of fucked up. It's a good time. I think you'll have a good time watching this one. Really solid. Anya Taylor-Joy did a great job again. Really like her. Every time I see her in a movie, I really enjoy her. Princess Peach is the one I'm like a little skeptical about, because it's like, why did you cast her as Peach? Why not get a comedian to voice Peach? I don't know. Feels like there's a lot of better choices for that, but she's not the worst casting decision in that movie. I'll say that much. Yeah, but big fan of this one. Number 3. Aftersun's my number 2. Everything Everywhere All at Once is number 1. Yeah, I know it's like a normie pick this year, but fuck you, I love it. I'm glad it got so much recognition, that one. Okay, so a movie I've been thinking about a lot less. It's not a bad movie, The Fabelmans. I enjoyed this movie. I think there's some things to really appreciate about it. I guess my like main critique of it, there's like 2 things that come to mind. There's a couple of things that come to mind, honestly. One is just like, I think one side of the movie is a lot more interesting than the other. Like, I think watching Spielberg, it's not Spielberg, Sammy Fabelman, watching him make his movies, both as a kid and as an adult, like just seeing like, not even an adult, a teenager, seeing like how he like got the shots, like showing how they do the practical effects is a lot of fun. I think if you are someone who's enjoyed making films in the past, it's a very charming movie to watch. I think it has a lot of things to appreciate in those regards. I like how the old films that they made too, it's not like some shitty filter of it. It actually looks like they went and made this with old film. Like they properly emulated like the older style to it. The family drama is a lot less interesting. Granted, I do like some scenes regarding that, but there's a lot of family drama, and it's important to the movie because it's kind of like film was used as an escape for him. It's kind of showing how he can like put that energy into making movies. But I think there could have been way more focused on the making movie side than the family drama side, because at the end of the day, the family drama stuff was just fine. My only other thing with it, and this is like fully, I'll acknowledge this is something that someone might look at me and say, wow, you're a fucking dick for saying this. Spielberg kind of loves himself, doesn't he? I don't know. This is a movie where he's writing a lot of people praise his work, and I know he changed the character's name to like Sammy Fabelman, so it's technically not him, but it's about him. This is a movie based on his childhood. This is a movie based on stuff that he actually went through. So it's a little egotistical. Feel free to disagree with me on that. Feel free to call me a jackass for saying that. It's like, it's good to love yourself. It's good to love your own work. But making a movie about how great you are might be it's a little unfair, because there is like a lot more to it than that. And it does show his like flaws as a person too. But I don't know, this movie like it would be a lot less weird if this was not a movie that Spielberg made, but like a fan of Spielberg made. It's someone who grew up watching Spielberg made. Because honestly, and here's another fucking hot take, I'm not the biggest Spielberg fan. I think his movies are boring. I think that they're really well made. I appreciate his craft. I appreciate the impact he's had on the film industry. Like, there's no denying, like, he's probably the most well-known director of all time. And I think that there's some good reasons for that. But I've just never been that into his movies, you know? Really, like, I think Jaws has some neat scenes as a whole. I don't like the movie though; it's like kind of boring to me. I think Indiana Jones. We did that for did Indiana Jones 4 for Hall of Victories, and I had to watch through the movies, and it's kind of bored. Like they're well made. The score is really memorable. Um, like I can't criticize the movie as much as I can say what I'm into and what I'm not into, and it's just his movies have never been for me, I guess. I'm gonna be watching E.T. again soon for an episode of Out of the Ring for Hall of Victories, so um maybe I'll like that one. But yeah, overall, I've just never been the biggest Spielberg fan. Um, but what does work in this movie works really well. I especially love the first fucking 11 minutes of this movie where it's just they take him to see a movie for the first time, and every single fucking movie about a kid who falls in love in movies does this stupid pretentious thing where it's like, oh, the camera's pointing up at like the light coming from the projector in the theater, then it pans down to the kid going like just watching the movie. And like, that's how we're establishing that this kid loves movies. I fucking hated Belfast. It's not a poorly made movie, and the child actor did a great job in that. But I was so bored, and that's like the extent of the film. Whenever he's talking about movies, he is not talking like a child would. That is an adult speaking through a kid. And just like, oh yeah, we're gonna establish that he loves movies by making him look at the screen and all. It's just like, that is such a fucking lame way to do that. um where this movie does is he doesn't even seem like he knows how to deal with the movie after he saw it, and in the car ride home he's like completely quiet about it. The parents are wondering if they made the right choice taking him to see this. Like they're wondering if it freaked him out or it just didn't interest him. And then in the movie they watch, there's this big train crash, and he wants a train for Christmas. Then he wants a train set for Christmas, and it's because he's trying to recreate the crash. And then his mom gets him a camera, so instead of breaking the train by doing this over and over, he can just record it once and watch it back. And you like, they're not really sure why he's doing this, and he's not sure why he's doing it either. He's just obsessed. He saw something and he wants to see it again. He wants to recreate it. And I think that is a way more realistic approach to that. I think that is a significantly more interesting approach to that. I thought that was brilliant. I thought after those first 11 minutes, I was in for a real treat with this movie. And then it's kind of hit or miss throughout from there on out. There's some scenes that I really love. There's some scenes that, there's not even really a lot of scenes that I hate in this movie, or maybe any that I hate. There's just some where it's like, okay, this is a lot less interesting. Like there's these bullies that they bring into the movie more than halfway through, and then we start focusing on them, and I'm like, really? I get it's based on his life, so maybe that's fair, but it's also weird to introduce them this late in the movie. Granted, I do like the scene that he has with his bully near the end of it, because they don't completely go like in one direction with it. Like basically he does something nice for his bully, and the bully doesn't know how to handle it. But they don't make it overly sappy, but they also don't make it overly cruel. Like I think they found a good balance in that scene. I kind of liked that scene. In terms of the family drama, I love the scene where he's editing through the footage and he sees something that he's not supposed to see, and then later there's a confrontation in regards to that footage. And I like that scene a lot too, because it was well acted, it was well edited, it was like the score accompanied it. Can't fucking talk today really well. And yeah, I thought those scenes were brilliant. And I think that I love the scene where he's just making a home movie too, because yeah, I relate to that a lot. I make a lot of home movies, just like a family trip. That was super relatable to me, actually. Just watching it, kind of having a laugh at things that, didn't even happen that long ago. Kind of seeing how just that can be like a great comfort to people too, just looking back at a fun trip. There's a lot to like about the Fabelmans. I just think there's stuff that could have been cut from it. And my comments about the ego thing, I don't know, like that's mainly a joke. It's not really something that brings the movie down. I'm just kind of poking fun of Spielberg a little bit, but maybe I should shut the fuck up and not make fun of one of the most beloved directors of all time like that. I don't know. I just just thought that was worth commenting on. I still really liked the movie. I just think it's 2 hours and 30 minutes. You could at least cut 30 minutes from it. Like why the fuck did we focus? She gets a monkey at one point, and then there's scenes focused on her and her monkey, and it's like that contributed fucking nothing. What the fuck was the point of that? I kind of get it. It's because she's unhappy and she's trying to make herself happy, but like, I don't know, maybe that's something that actually happened in his life and he wanted to show that off in the movie, but that, I don't know, that to me, that stuff like that just wasted time. That just killed time. Like, I wasn't really into the parts with him and his, like, first love either, because I felt like that was just something that wasn't all that necessary in the movie. I don't think that contributed a lot. Really didn't like most of the high school stuff, but again, like, I can see why, as someone who's trying to tell their story, why they might want that in there, but as a movie, like, it makes sense that it's in there, but as a movie, it's like, yeah, you can cut some stuff out, you know? Because it's not as interesting as like the other stuff you have going on. But I'm sure someone could come up with a compelling argument against me on that, because I kind of understand why it's there. It's just, realistically, if I want to look at this movie as honestly as I possibly can and just express my experience with it, there's stuff in there that really brings it down for me. And I'll leave it at that. I guess there's more I could talk about, but I might want to cut it off there. Take a little break. Take a little breather. I've been talking for like 20 minutes. I've got like frozen groceries in this car with me. All right. That's it for now. I'll talk about more later. I've got quite a few left to watch. Bye.